Okay, we're back, and this week we're going to discuss rule of thirds. Hopefully, you shot your rule of thirds photograph. We've discussed rule of thirds in the classroom and how it is a valuable tool for solving compositional problems. If you are close on your rule of thirds but not quite, there's one tool in Photoshop that can help you out, and that's the crop tool. And this is a two-part tool. You select the crop tool. You then select the portion of the photograph that you want to demonstrate rule of thirds on. And let's say, for example, I want this tomato to be the star of my show. I want this tomato right here to be the tomato that's in the sweet spot of rule of thirds. I can crop right to that by using the crop tool. So I selected the crop tool. I drug the marquee out over the space that I wanted to crop. You'll notice that the crop tool puts the rule of thirds segment lines up for me, and then I click 2 times. That's the second part of the two-part tool. So again, it's select the crop tool, pick the part you want to crop. I'm having this tomato be the star of the rule of thirds show. So there it is right in the middle of where the lines intersect. As you remember from our classroom presentation and our discussion, these are the PowerPoints where you want to put the subject of your photograph if you want to show rule of thirds. And then we click 2 times and it crops the photograph. Now for our project, we're going to select this tomato. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll try the magnetic lasso first. And it's sort of doing an okay job. It's finding some of the edges. And let's say, for example, I also want to include these like little leaf bits here. So I'm going to see how well it does with those. Okay. And then I'm going to get back to where I started, and you'll see a little O pop up. There it is, just popped up. So I now have my selection. And if I look at that under the quick mask, zoom in that a little bit, you can tell it's an okay selection, but it needs work. So let's go ahead and let's do that work that this needs. Under the quick mask, I can take my erase tool and I can erase parts of the mask away, and I can add parts like here in between these little guys with the paintbrush tool. Let's go a little smaller. So when I do this, I'm actually putting selection, or I'm taking these areas out of selection, like these areas between these leaves that I do not want selected. And I'll grab my erase tool, and like so. I'm going to clean that up a bit. Then I'm going to add my brush tool. I'm just going to go ahead and click B on the keyboard. I push the B key, and that brings up the brush. And the E brings up the eraser. It's very helpful if you have your left hand involved in Photoshop as well. In other words, you're using your keyboard commands, B for brush, E for eraser. That way you don't have to stop what you're doing and you can just keep right on drawing, right on working on your photograph. Bring the eraser up, bring the brush back. Kind of fill in here a little bit. Make my brush really small. Okay, and the reason I chose this area is I'm going to show you another little selection tool that's pretty cool. Bring my hand up, there's my space bar. Bring my brush back up. My erase tool and get this erased out here. Okay, so almost there. Come back out from under the quick mask. It's better, but it's not quite perfect. It needs a little more work. There is a tool that will do the work for us if we let it. If I have any one of these selection tools picked as my current tool, any one of them, right here there's a button called Refine Edge. I'm going to take a look at that. When I click it, it brings up this Refine Edge dialog box, and it's showing me my selection as a black and white image there. And I can look at it a number of different ways. I can look at it in the marching ants. I can look at it in the overlay. I can look at it as a black and white. I can look at it on its own layer. Now we have some edge detection tools that we can use. Smart Radius is a good one. We can tell it to smooth the selection for us here. Oh, getting better. Okay. We can have it look for more contrast around the edges. We can decontaminate colors, that is if there's some selection here that's from the surrounding area that's getting spilled into this area, we can do that. We can take that out. Don't see any of that going on. I think I'll run my Smart Radius out a little more. A little too much. I'm starting to pick up some here. So I'm going to bring it back just a touch. There we go. Okay. Not too bad. And then finally, right here, the output. You can have it output to a new layer, and it will just put this onto a new layer for you. It's the same as Command J. When I click OK, there it is. Okay, it's the same as selecting and Command J-ing that, and that's a little bit better. I'm going to zoom back now. Now we have the tomato on its own, okay, and we're going to add a black and white adjustment layer between the two. So I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to select a black and white. And there we have it. So your assignment with your rule of thirds is to keep the star of the show, the subject of your photograph, in its natural color, have it on its own layer, have a black and white adjustment layer between that and the background layer that has the rest of the image. And the black and white adjustment layers are very powerful because we can turn them off and see what it looks like without it. We can throw it away, you know, a year from now if we open this picture up and we just want it to look like this permanently. We can throw the black and white adjustment layer away. Or we can even go back in and we can adjust how that black and white adjustment layer converts or controls the conversion to black and white. So when you have a rule of thirds with a black and white background layer, the subject of the photograph that's in the sweet spot of rule of thirds in color, you are finished with this assignment and ready for a grade.